Hi guys, welcome back. JT here for delicatebeats.com, and today I'm going to show you how to use Black Diamonds, my brand new trap kit for Kontakt 5 to make beats. Stay tuned. So here I've loaded Black Diamonds into Kontakt 5, and the first thing I want to show you is how I mapped out the sounds in the different kits. So if you take a look at the keyboard here at the bottom, there are green keys, red keys, three groups of blue keys, and finally the yellow keys. So on the green keys here, I have put 3 different loops to add grit to your beats. So tape noise and 2 different vinyl noises. So these guys loop perfectly, so it becomes very easy to add grit in the background of your beats. And you might ask why. Well, you know, with keyboard-based music such as trap, it can sound a bit dull, especially when you're a beginner producer. So by just adding these in the background, you'll find that sometimes it adds just this little bit of imperfection to the beat that makes it more human and more interesting. Next up is the bass and 808 group. I've laid out those on 2 octaves so you can play melodies. And because there are a lot of great 808 samples out there, I decided to instead use 808 samples but layering them with analog keyboards. So if you check out the kit 2, for example, these sounds, while having, you know, the depth and the bass of the 808, will also sound good in smaller speakers and little earphones. So I thought it would help more, you know, my beginner and intermediate producers out there to make a mix that is fuller. So this is it for the basses. Now let's move on to the drums. Drums are always laid out pretty much the same, where on the C you have the kick, then you have a kick layer, the snare layer. On the E key you'll have either snare rolls, and sometimes it's just another snare layer such as a clap. And finally, on the last 4 keys, you have the hi-hats. On the F, it's just a hi-hat by itself. And I've pre-programmed a bunch of loops for you guys to get going really fast. So triplets, 16th note, and just all-out machine gun. So with this in mind, it becomes very easy to just have, you know, one of the hi-hat loops playing in the background and get going. So very easy to just get a beat going with the drums the way they are programmed. Next up are the chords. I'm going to go back to kit 1 for this example, and what I've done is pre-program chord progressions. And usually you'll have 2 different sounds playing the same chord progression. So I've made sure that they are, you know, easy to layer. And because you have those 2 options, you can, you know, use one for the verse and then layer them for the chorus, or, you know, whatever. And the last blue group are, you know, loops and arps. So okay, you might be wondering why this guy is playing so fast. Well, all of these loops are tempo synced to the host. So in my case, in Logic, I'm going to go back. Right now it's playing at 120 BPMs. I'm going to go to 70 BPMs, which is the tempo I played all of the loops and all of the sounds to. So if we go back, And by the way, all of these loops are in the same key as the chord progression, so you can go. So you saw it with the drums, and now you see it with the chords and the arps. I really put a lot of thinking into making this instrument, you know, an inspiration trigger. Obviously, you can just build a beat from just one kit or mixing different kits, but the idea is especially to just be able to play with your two hands on the keyboard and get something interesting going. After that, you can add on top of that your bass lines and your melodies, but you really have a lot here to just get going very, very fast. And finally, the yellow keys here are the effects, the transition effects, and on the C key you have a bass downer and a riser on the D. So again, from, you know, texture to bass to drums to chords to melodies and transition effects, you always have in each of these 7 kits all at your disposal to create a full sounding beat and arrangement. Now that we have seen how the sounds are laid out, I'd like to show you how to use the interface, because again, each of those controls are carefully planned out, and they serve a specific purpose to enhance the sounds at your disposal. For the ones who are familiar with my Smoke drum kit, the main interface is exactly the same, where you have the SSL compressor, you know, the Lexicon reverb, the SSL EQ, tape saturation, and a filter. So for example, if we play around with one of the loops, I can show you how, you know, each of those affect the sound. Okay, so by clicking on the label, you can turn these guys on and off. And for example, a cool trick would be to put a lot of reverb on the drums using the filter. Get that underwater Mike Will Made It type of sound. And you can even turn on the equalizer, take out a little bit of bass, then low mids. Okay, like I said, the SSL compressor is a compressor that I really love the sound of, and it really, you know, if you really push it, squashes the sound in a very musical way. So here how the kick is now really tight and controlled, versus if you want this fat sound, you can also turn up the tape saturation, which is going to bring out some of the mids. So colder without the tape saturation. So this is the first main page. I'm going to keep all of these guys off for now, and let's move on to the modulation page. So you have 4 modulators here, and these guys don't have any effect on the drums. I programmed this just to affect the chords and the loops. And for the sake of the example, I'm going to play one of those loops, and we're going to play around with the different modulators. So sidechain, you know, what you'll hear on your typical dance joint, but I felt like it was really interesting for hip hop as well, you know, and trap. It really leaves room for the kick. So all of these guys work the same, on and off here from the right. you have the rate, which is the speed basically of the effect, and the amount. So maybe you don't want, you know, on the one for the volume to be all the way down. So moving on to the second one, the stutter. So, you know, with just a push of a few buttons, you can really make these guys super intense and just have a little movement going on the sound. Wobble is, you know, what you'll hear on the dubstep basses, which is a filter cut off. So, you know, without being a synth programmer, you can really just tailor the sounds to your own likings. And finally, the panner is just a stereo effect. Again, you know, just to make things more interesting and play around with the stereo field a bit. So this is the modulation. And now in the final segment of the video, I'm going to show you how in, you know, just a few minutes you can get really going fast and create a beat that sounds really full and that sounds good. I have just one track loaded up, but as you'll see, I'm going to use a bunch of different instances of Kontakt and black diamonds to really, you know, control the volume of each of the sounds. The first thing I'm going to do is to have a loop here going. Make sure my tempo is around 70 BPMs, which is the original tempo of the different loops. And with the metronome on, I'm just going to play, you know, a quick chord progression. Let's go random here, kit 4. All right, so let's try this out. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is quantize these hits here, and I'm going to duplicate this to have 4 bars. Because all of the loops and chords usually are based on the tempo, you can come in here and just make sure that they end on each of the beats. That way you don't lose any of the end of the different loops and sounds. You know what? Just to make things simpler, I think I'm gonna just keep the same rhythm, but instead I'm gonna stay on the first chord and bring out the chord progression from another kit. And this sound is a bit harsh, so I'm just gonna filter it a bit. Okay, now I'm gonna duplicate this track, and on this one I'm going to create a drum beat. So let's go random again, close out all of the effects, and I'm gonna lay down a hi-hat loop first. Okay, and now we're going to quantize this, make sure the end is on at the end of the second bar. I'm going to cut this and we're going to duplicate that. Now I can already rename my tracks, so chord 1, and this is going to be my hi-hat. And I usually like my hi-hats really low, so I'm going to keep this one on its own track. Okay, duplicate again, and this time we are, no, wait, I'm going to find a chord progression to go on top of that. And I really like the choir on kit 1, so I'm going to use this this first chord to change the tune of the kit 1 to match the first chord. Alright, so that sounds good. I'm going to record that, and what I'm going to do is make sure I have the same rhythm as what I had going on the chord 1. This is not exactly the same, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to select those two, and now I'm going to move this guy around. To match. Okay, and I forgot to quantize these guys. Okay, go back. Right. So let's try a little side chain on the choir. Okay, duplicate again, and this time I'm going to lay down the drums, kick and snare. So let's close this, and here I'm going to obviously close all of the effects, and why not try kit 7. Gonna move that guy up, and let's play something. Alright, now we're going to quantize this, and why not layer here and there some of those kick and snares layer. So on the second here. Okay, I'm going to duplicate this loop, and let's listen to what we have now. Create a bit more anticipation for this big thump. And right, so we have kick, chords, hi-hats, basically drums. Let's try bass. So duplicate again, rename this track bass, and yeah, let's try the 808 on kit 2. Turn this guy up a bit, and I'm just gonna freestyle to find the notes. That seems to work. I'm just going to isolate the choir for a second here, just to make sure that my notes are right. I need to stay on that A flat. Right, again, quantize these guys, and let's listen to the whole thing. And that could work for the let's say, for example, the second half of the verse, and let's try to find an interesting synth lead to go on top of all of those tracks for the chorus. So I'm going to rename this lead, and by playing around with the kits here, and in this section here, usually the synth leads are in the second half of the this third blue group. So I'm gonna, play around with the rhythm of this second synth loop here, and try something that matches pretty much the group that we already have going. Okay. And again, quantize the notes, and I'm going to make sure that none of these guys overlap. And now all we have to do is do a little bit of mixing, maybe EQing some of the parts, just to make it even sound even bigger and better. And there you have it. This is Black Diamonds. The product is going to be on sale in a few days on delicatebeats.com. So make sure you pay me a visit. And this is going to retail at $29.95, so great price for a very, very good sound, in my opinion. Very easy to use. So hope you like this presentation, and that it gives you a good idea of what the product can do. So thank you again. This is JT from delicatebeats.com.